CCG, USA! HRI is here to stay! CCG, USA! HRI is here to stay! Get the hang of it now, aren't you?
Well, I'm the Member of Parliament for the Huddersfield Royal Infirmary. It's in my constituency, and these proposals are absolutely appalling and shocking. I use HRI, my family do, we live locally. They really do need to think again. How can a growing university town of Huddersfield be left with no A&E at all? And we've just been hearing from local people here where people have been in an ambulance, stuck in traffic, and they've needed emergency care. It will be even worse if everyone has to travel on the incredibly busy roads all the way over to Halifax. So all the local politicians are working together on this. All the community, as you can see behind me, have come together, and the consultation process will be starting next month in February, and we will have 12 weeks to make our points to the decision makers. This is not a government decision, this is local doctors on the clinical commissioning group who've decided this, and we have a real opportunity to tell them why we're against it and why they should change their minds.
A&E isn't being moved to Calderdale. This is all a smokescreen. If you actually listen to what the CCG member said, he said that it will be an urgent care department, just as Huddersfield will be, and that other A&E services will be provided outside. This whole thing is about privatising. The point is to build another hospital, put elective services into that hospital, which are well defined, can be easily privatised, take all the long care over to Calderdale, the elderly, the terminal, put them in there, and then that is well defined as well. That will go bankrupt, and then it'll just go to the wall. For all the hospitals that they're proposing, the new GP centre, are all ready for privatisation, and there will not be an A&E either in Calderdale or in Huddersfield.
I think a town the size of Huddersfield, we can't afford to lose our A&E or the hospital. And moving us to Calderdale, it's just going to put so much pressure onto Calderdale A&E that it's just not feasible. They can't take a town as big as us and treat us as well as Halifax and other surrounding areas.
Well, I think personally Calderdale Hospital's not big enough to accommodate another A&E department, the waiting area, and they've only a few rooms over there. Plus the fact the Ellen bypass on the way from Huddersfield is horrendous with traffic. It is only 3 years ago today that a friend of mine's child was born on the bypass because Huddersfield had closed the maternity down. Now that the baby's life was in danger, her life was in danger, and there was no medic staff around when she was out delivering it. So my view is that Huddersfield needs its own A&E department, especially for people that live in Holmfirth and the outskirts of Huddersfield, where it's going to take them at least an hour to get there.
I'm just very disappointed. I'm very upset. We're one of the biggest towns in the UK, and we can't have an A&E department, especially with our population and everything. And I work in Halifax, so I don't even work normal time, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and it takes ages to get there, especially with the flooding, with the Sobe Bridge. Is already a lot of traffic, and I just can't imagine if somebody was in really emergency need and had to travel to Halifax. There's not enough time. How many lives we're going to be losing, I just can't, there's no words for it.
It's a long way away to go to Halifax, and as a rugby player myself, I can assure you that a lot of the injuries that can happen can be pretty nasty and very time sensitive. I mean, there's only so much the doctors at the stadium and on the pitch side can do, and if you've got to go all the way to Halifax, that can really increase a lot of damage and put players out of being able to do what they do to earn a living for a long time. So it's really, if you're having to travel so far, it's not on. I mean, you're taking away these people's livelihoods if they're having to suffer in the back of an ambulance for an extra half hour. And let's remember, on game days, if it's a professional sportsman, the traffic's atrocious. We all know, driving through wherever it be on a game day, it could take 2 hours just to get to Endett Road. And imagine if you're in an ambulance and in gridlock, it's really, if you're having to travel so far to Halifax, it's not on.
I think it's a bit ridiculous, really. People really struggle. I was speaking to somebody the other day, and they said they had their little boy had an asthma attack, and they said it was easy enough for them to drive to Huddersfield A&E, but in the future, with the traffic and with the cost of a taxi and things, that she might be tempted in the future to bring an ambulance in that situation. So it has a knock-on effect on other public services and emergency services as well. And it's just it's not fair, and it's not right, and it's unnecessary as well.
Well, like everybody else, shocking. Speaking from personal experience, having been in A&E 3 years ago, helped save my life. And shocking because it's a political decision. It's part of the process of privatising the NHS, and I'm here and I'm totally opposed to that.
And do you know about the privatisation?
I'm not an expert on it, but we're here with saying NHS, not Trident. Trident nuclear submarines and nuclear weapons system costs between 100 billion upwards, 176 billion. And that money would fund 30 new hospitals, 250,000 new nurses, and so I'm in favour of saving lives, A&E, not killing lives through nuclear weapons.
I'm not very happy, to be honest, due to my baby being born at Calderdale. I had to go to Calderdale. We did get stuck on the bypass, and that's my big concern, is the bypass, the traffic. How are they going to cope with all the traffic? And obviously ambulances getting through and things like that, and obviously the amount of people in Huddersfield getting all the way to Halifax. How are they going to cope at Halifax with all the people going over there?
I think it's absolute madness. Have you ever been on the Elton bypass? It's sort of like rush hour. You're sort of talking about ambulances getting through. It ain't going to happen, and people are just going to get stuck in ambulances and not get through to sort of like life-saving sort of like A&E services. It's just madness, absolute madness. I mean, where are people going to go over sort of Kirkburton and Denby Dale? If they want their A&E services right over to Calderdale, just crazy, absolutely crazy. I mean, my father was taken by ambulance to Huddersfield A&E about 4 years ago with a sort of like a stroke. If he'd have got to Calderdale, it could have been, well, he could have died. It is just, absolutely. So, yeah, I have a direct experience. Anybody who works in Halifax, and I've worked in Halifax, it's a nightmare to get to Halifax. Obviously it takes longer, the public transport links are not very good. So it's not fair to the people who are going to visit as well, and the people who have been visited.
I think it's absolutely absurd. We're an absolutely huge town that needs its own A&E department. We've got people from as far as Marsden to Holmfirth, Murfield, Colne Valley, all over. 163,000 people. We cannot all be expected to travel to Halifax. We need our own A&E.